Hello,
Can you hear us?
County Community College colleagues. Welcome to this session of Who's Zooming Who? Combating Zoom Fatigue. I am your presenter, Dr. Danielle LaShore Bryant.
Can she hear
I'm one
you?
of the counselors in the Wellness Center. And I am thrilled that you're joining me this afternoon. I became interested in this topic, admittedly, when I started doing teletherapy in 2018. Noticed after a while of having several therapy sessions via online video that by the end of the day, I was pretty worn out and I was a little irritable. I wasn't very friendly and I knew something was going on. So fast forward to COVID-19 and video conferencing has become the way of communicating. And I suddenly know what's going on. I was suffering from Zoom fatigue. And I'd like to tell you today what that is, how to avoid it, whether you're the host or the participant, and give you some good tips so that as we go along and more of our interactions may become online, you have some tools to keep you not only focused, but also not as irritable as I was. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. And I'm just going to make the adjustments that I will tell you about as a way of preventing Zoom fatigue. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have the introduction. I told you who I was and how I came about this particular topic. We have 50 minutes today, and in that time, we're going to look at the definition of Zoom fatigue. We're also going to look at how it occurs and why it occurs. And then we're going to look at some strategies that you can use, whether you're the host or the participant. So before we do get started, I would like to stop sharing my screen and bring up a little interactive activity, if you don't mind. So I would ask you to get your phones ready because I am going to be enlisting a game that I would like you all to participate in. So just let me find that. And I think we'll, yeah, there we go. All righty. Give me a moment while I switch over, please. There we go, and here we are. There we go. Okay. Let me make sure that my screen is being shared. Yes, it is. Very good. All righty, and here we are. All right, phones ready because you'll have to put in a pin. Just a quick set of questions. We'll go ahead and there we go. It's loading up the pin. If you want to join, it's www.kahoot, KHOOT.IT. Once you do that, please then put in, I don't know, your name, a nickname, what have you. And once I see a few players, we'll get going. Give you a couple of minutes for that. All right, we've got Giving Dragon and Caring Sable. Great names. Great names. Can we get a few more? Okay, Bronze. Very clever. Oh, they are coming in very good. Okay, so we got some competitors here at PGCC, I see. Very nice. Very nice. I'll just give about 10 more seconds. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Here we go. Okay, here's the first question. All video conferencing platforms, all are, except one. Okay, let's see. What is the answer? The answer that everyone got correct is COVID Corner. Yes. You're all right. Yes, that is not a video conferencing platform. All right, those are the points. Let's go next. Now this one's an old school. It'll be interesting to see the answers here. All right. Oh, look at that. So, yes, Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, is our singer for Who's Zoomin' Who? Who's Zoomin' Who? I won't go beyond that to scare you all. Okay, let's look at the next, shall we? Oh, there are scores. They are coming up. Okay. Next one. Scores are also based on timing, not just the correct answer. Is it the only? Is it the only? Okay. Okay. Now, even this one fooled my husband, okay, because we use Zoom so much that we tend to think it's like the one and only, but it isn't. And the workshop will go into a little bit more about that. Last question. Okay. So some of you knew that it was founded in 2011. And again, this one fooled my hubby. He thought it was 2020. So if you did too, it's okay. Let's look at the podium and see who has the highest score here. Radiant Horse at third, Speedy Orcs at second, and the number one, Carrie Sable. Hot diggity. Woohoo! With some runner-ups. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, we're going to stop sharing now. We got a new share now. We will go back and into our presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, here we go. Let's go back to this. So we looked at the agenda. We have an idea about which video platforms you're familiar with. So let's go ahead and take a look at all that encompasses video platforms. As you can see, FaceTime is actually the number one. According to this chart, it looks like Zoom is second or third. So I can't see because my bar's in the way, but nonetheless, it tells you about the proliferation of video conferencing platforms since March of 2020. Is it any reason why we're getting so fatigued meeting, socializing, learning over over a video conferencing platform? Is it any wonder why we're so fatigued? So let's take a look at how this proliferation impacts the human body. What's going on? Well, according to the Association for the Advancement of Computing in Education, they're saying that Zoom fatigue is not clearly defined. Okay, it's like a concept, a cluster, if you will, of behaviors and a cluster of feelings, if you will, that are associated with a particular activity. That being video conferencing online. Wirehold looks at it differently, and in fact says that this type of interaction can lead to physical and emotional reactions. And I shared in the beginning, I was experiencing some of these early on, particularly with the influx of teletherapy and personal socializing on Zoom and religious services on Zoom. So, and then not to mention work. And I'm sure I'm not alone. In fact, I know I'm not alone because Fosseline and Wes simply put it that after a day of video conferencing and meeting and chatting online, you're just more exhausted at the end of your workday than you used to be. Boom. Boom. As my mom would say, I don't need a scientist to tell me that the sun is hot. So there we go. Why does it occur? Well, this is why it occurs. A number of reasons. We can start with the intense concentration that you have to have, looking at a little square box. We can also talk about the fact that there's a sense that you have to have a constant interplay with the person on screen to make sure that they know you're paying attention and that you're interested in what they're saying. And so to do that on screen, the only way to do that is to look straight at the screen. If you look away, if you turn your head, it gives a different connotation. But we're going to talk about why those are so important a little later on, those types of behaviors. There's this increased self-awareness through the little box that you see yourself in. You may find yourself looking at the box more so than looking at what's going on the larger screen. And that's just human nature. There's also the idea that we have a lack of nonverbals to go along with what is being said. So inflections in the voice may be all you have to go on. If the person is not very expressive, using their hands, moving their head, you may think they're frozen. So the lack of nonverbals can really impact the level of communication. Finally, with all of this going on, our brain has to process. And that's where the chug, 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 chug comes in. That's where the work is going on. That's where you're sludging through, trying to pick up what you would ordinarily pick up in a face-to-face meeting. So is there any reason or any reason why we're not all doing that? Trying to find a way to cope. All right. So I'll just play it one more time so that you can figure out what part of that might work for you, if you can get away with it. So, how can we avoid that type of draining, lack of energetic type of persona when we're online? Well, I have a couple of ideas. One idea is to ask the participants to mute their mic and turn off their camera. And when I started this, I said I need to take some time to make sure that I configure this correctly. And what I was doing was taking off the camera. Because what that does then is it allows you to focus more so on what you're doing. As the host, when you have that galley view, it's very distracting. Things can be going on in the background. Things can be going on in the foreground. So if you have that at your disposal, it really cuts through a lot of the distraction and just allows you to present as you would. I recently went to a conference where that was the standard operating procedure. Everyone who came on, no camera, no mic. So, also, if you're the host, be mindful of scheduling. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, try to avoid back-to-back meetings. So if you have a 3 o'clock conference or a video call, don't have a 4 o'clock video call, and don't have a 2 o'clock video call. That's a lot. That's a lot. Um, Unfortunately for me, as a therapist, sometimes it's hard to avoid that. In fact, it's always hard to avoid that. Students seem to have the same class schedule and they all want those same later times. So I am often seeing students 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know, that's my issue, and I've grown to that. I now know how to handle that. But for those of you who are new to this, be mindful of the scheduling piece. In fact, if you have a 30-minute meeting, go for 25. Save that extra 5 minutes, whether it's for a catch up at the end, or whether it's for questions, or just to kind of breathe. You have a 60-minute, go for 50 and use that extra 10 for catch up with colleagues, or again, an early dismissal, or to just. So those are the ideas when I say be mindful of scheduling. Have an agenda. An agenda helps. People like to see, okay, we're through that one. We talked about that. Okay, what's next? Okay, we're done with that. People like an agenda. And with an agenda comes starting on time and ending on time. You're more likely to have folks looking forward to your meetings because they know, hey, Jonas said this meeting is from 3 to 3:50, and I know Jonas has us done at 3:50. That's an idea. Another idea for the host is to make any type of social activities that you might have online optional. Let people opt in if they want to have additional interactions with you online. Give them the option, and that slides right into the next point of giving them the option of varying the tech. What's wrong with a conference call? Hey, yes, conference calls still work. Yes. And you know what? Sometimes you can just put that right in an email. So be mindful of what it is that you are conveying, and wonder, does it have to be conveyed through the medium of video? All right, conference calls work great. And when you give your participants that option, then you can have this type of reward. When you make it mandatory, you've got them all spiffied up, looking their best. But if you have audio only, it gives them some freedom to still be present, but not have to be there with the bells and whistles. All right? So, tips for the participant. The participant, you definitely want the same type of setup that the host had in terms of using speaker view and that mute button. Keep it on mute until you have something to say. Keep it on mute until someone asks for you to speak. And the speaker view then, again, minimizes distractions, allows you to focus on what's on the screen. The next point there is to take notes with paper and pencil. And why would that be helpful? Research has shown us that memory and retention are tied to the act of writing. So if you're in a meeting, first of all, taking notes helps you stay awake and pay attention, and it looks good in the boss's eyes. But more importantly, it helps with that eye hand, and it helps your eyes. Your eyes. Because you're constantly going from screen to paper, which is a very good thing. Because video conferencing, we have a tendency to just look forward. There's some research that shows that when we're looking at video, that we blink less, which means we don't coat our eyes with the natural lubricant that it needs. And so we can easily dry our eyes out. And who wants dry eyes? So using pen and paper can satisfy a variety of needs in terms of getting you back into paying attention to that Zoom meeting. The next thing is creating a Zoom routine. Oh yeah, a Zoom routine. And I'm not talking about to the left and to the right and to the back. I'm talking about a Zoom routine where when the camera is on, do you have what you need? So do you have your water, for example? Oh, check. Do you have your lighting on? Click. Yes, check. Do you have the pad and paper ready so that you can take those notes? That's what I mean by creating a Zoom routine and getting to that place where you typically take those meetings. And let me tell you, it shouldn't be on your bed and probably not on your comfy couch where you might watch Netflix. Just saying. It's helpful if it can be in an area where it's more formal. So if you can be at a table with a chair, bam, great. Curate your space so that you have a designated area for Zooming. Now, I'm not so Pollyannish to where I can't recognize that everyone doesn't have space to do that. Okay, I do want to be very cognizant of that. I mean, I'm talking to my students, and some of them can't even, get a corner in a closet. So I understand that. So sometimes you have to be creative. Okay, sometimes you might want to put up a sheet. Sometimes you might want to build a little fort. Sometimes you might want to, I found some old shutters in my garage. I'm going to put those up as a way to not put them up, but just, put them out as a way to create a little corner somewhere. That's where the cat can't come while I'm Zooming, all right? So those types of creativity ideas to kind of curate the space that you need. And those are some ideas for the participants. Now, I also have ideas for anybody because we're not the only ones Zooming here. We have children who are doing remote learning. We have grandparents who we might be trying to connect with, loved ones and such, and even, as I said, church services or even board meetings. So some other ideas that you might be able to use. The idea of the eyes habit. What is that? The eyes habit simply means it's a rule, actually, given to us by optometrists. Yes, optometrists. And the Academy of Optometry recommends that every 20 minutes, you take a 20-second break and look out for 20 feet or more. 20, 20, 20. 20 seconds, every 20 minutes, look 20 feet. And they're telling us that it helps with eye strain. It helps with the muscles, relaxing some of the muscles in your eyes, and gives you a little stamina to go a little longer. So if you can't remember 20, 20, 20, 20 seconds, 20 minutes, 20 feet, remember, every 2 hours, take a 15-minute break. That's all. Every 2 hours, take a 15-minute break. And if you remember, going back to the strategies that I gave you if you were the host, and I suggested as host, you might want to set your meetings so that your meetings are either 25 minutes if it's 30, or 50 minutes if it's an hour meeting. And if you do that, right, that gives people that natural built-in time to do this 20-20 or to take a 15-minute break every 2 hours, right? So another strategy for everybody is to use nature as a buffer. Oh my goodness. Now, I'm not a tree hugger. Maybe I am. I'm a bush hugger, okay? Not a tree. And so I really advocate getting out there, getting outside. It's a natural force against this technological onslaught that we're receiving every day, right? It fuels our mind, it fuels our body, it re-energizes us. It's what's needed, right? So I have it there as a natural buffer because it is. And it doesn't have to be anything big, people, nothing big. I'm talking maybe going out on the porch and taking a couple deep breaths. I'm talking about maybe walking to the mailbox. I'm talking about maybe walking around your block. And hey, why not take a walk in the park? Right? These are natural ways to be able, again, to kind of minimize the effects that these technological, that slides us right into the blue light, that these technological devices have on our bodies. And again, that brings us right into blue light protection. Blue light protection is what's emitted from our electronics. So from our iPad and from our telephones. Those are the light, and blue light is actually what keeps us awake. It's good for attention. It's good for focus. It's not good for sleep, okay? So minimize those Zoom meetings, all right, if it's close to bedtime. if you want the children to visit with the grandparents, do it earlier in the day. Don't do it close to bedtime, right? If you're wanting and looking for a meditation, don't look online. Look for an audio, a podcast, right? Minimize that blue light that comes in uh, when it can be detrimental, and that is primarily at night. And you can also get some blue light glasses, and you can get an anti-glare blue light blocking screen. And I have one. Love it. It makes a difference. Finally, the last thing is a stretch break. And I really like the guy this morning with his stretches. That was great. But I've got some specifically for if you're Zooming. All right. So, one thing that you want to do with a Zoom break or a stretch break, if you've been sitting for Zooming, is definitely that 20-20-20. So, of course, I would look away and I'd look straight for 20 seconds. I would do that. You can also do the shoulder lift and shrug back and then bringing them forward, bringing those shoulders forward. Doing that a couple of times. All right, the shoulder shrug, everyone's familiar with that. Just remember it from your teen years. Shoulder shrug, front and back, those can be helpful. The gentleman this morning talked about the neck stretch. For me, when I do the neck stretch, I think he had his hand behind his back. And mine is actually like this, where my hand is flexed, because I want the stretch to go all the way up, not just my neck, and then I pull. And then I do that for the other side as well. You can see that, hopefully. So stretch breaks are the bomb. And what I will do is I will stop the screen share to make sure that you can see those stretch breaks. Let's do that. All righty, here we go. Okay, so if you were not able to see the stretch breaks, just very quickly in terms of the neck, with the hand flexed out and lean that way, and then also on the other side, lean, hand flexed out, and you trust me, you will feel that tension and that pull, which feels pretty good. Of course, the shoulder shrug forward, and then of course, wait, backward, and then of course forward. All right, and then finally there was one more. There was the where you're take your hands and interlace them and put them behind your head like so, and then just pull your elbows as far back as you can. Oh, righty. Do that a couple of times, and that helps also to loosen the muscles and ligaments within your neck, back, and shoulders that typically are engaged when we're doing the video conference. All right, so looks like it's 3:45, which means that leaves some room for questions, if there are any, or comments, if there are any. Is there a particular type of desk chair you recommend for prolonged sitting? That's a great one. So ergonomics is what you're referring to, are definitely important. Not so much one that I recommend, but what I do recommend are that the chair meets these types of requirements, okay? So first of all, you want your feet to be able to be comfortably on the floor. You don't want the swing thing. You don't want it that high. You want your feet to be able to be planted on the floor. You also want, when you sit, that your arms, whether you get a resting chair or one without, I prefer resting, that it doesn't have your arms in an awkward position to where if you have to write or type, it promotes arm strain. So if you can sit in the chair and you can put your arms in a way to where, okay, yeah, I can type, I can do this, then that is comfortable. You also want to make sure that it has a back that supports you. So I know there are some chairs where they don't may not have a middle, but the the cushion might be up here, and then this might be open, and then there's the seat. What you might want to do is find one where there's a cushion all the way down to support your back. And when you do, push all the way back in the chair so that your bottom is against the folding where the chair is. So those are just some tips when you are chair shopping to consider. All right, but I don't really have one that I recommend specifically. It's a great question. Other ergonomics, I might add, have to do with where you might place your desk or where you might place your computer for the video conferencing. Okay, so you definitely don't want it where you're looking up, and you don't want it where you're looking down and they're looking in your nostrils. You don't want that. You want it at as even as it can be for you. And I know I had to play around with that because I was getting a little strain. I had it a little up, and I was getting a little strain there, so I had to adjust it. And actually, I have a standing desk right now that I'm using that's very, very helpful. Allows the standing and the sitting, so that's helpful. Any other questions? No? Okay, well.
Malik has a question.
Oh, okay, certainly, please, go right ahead.
It says, what do I say to my employer who requires the video to be on during the Zoom meeting?
Oh, that is such a good one. Oh my gosh, that's a good one. Um, so I had that happen. Actually, it wasn't necessarily my boss, but it was with um, a board meeting. I'm on a Maryland board for the state, and they require that you have your camera on. And I remember asking, may I not have that going on? I've got some things that I don't necessarily want on camera this evening. And so, with your permission, I was going to do it or not. With your permission, because that's how you have to lead. With your permission, I would like to have my camera remain off. Still here, still engaged, but the camera itself, just at this point, this time, won't work for me. You might even want to go a step further and say, "May I call in?" Okay, remember those conference calls. Zoom does have a call-in feature. All right, we just kind of click to the link, but it does have a phone-in feature. And that might be a conversation that you have with your boss, superior, supervisor independently. Or it might be something where you caucus with your other colleagues, and you all talk together in terms of maybe we should approach and see what type of feedback we get around that. You may find safety in numbers, and maybe the supervisor may be open. Maybe they listened to Dr. Williams today, and they're open to pursue another way. So, great question. And always with respect. Always with respect. Thank you. Any other comments? I like comments too. All right, so let's see then. Can we identify who the winner was? Because in our game, everyone had a nickname. So who was the winner?
I am. That would be me, Candace.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
Candace. Doing all right. Doing it. So you are the big winner today, huh?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm just extremely game competitive. That's in my nature. Hey,
All
Vincent.
right. So I'm surprised you look a little young to know Aretha Franklin sang that song.
That was in my youth. I was a teenager, I guess, when it came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was one of her later hits. So,
It was.
yeah.
Yes. Were you going to say something, Vincent?
No, just very informative. Thank you. Thanks
Oh,
for being
you're very
here.
welcome. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, and then who came in second after Candace?
That was me, Lisa Price.
All right, Lisa.
It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm competitive as well.
Okay. The women competitive, go figure. Okay. That's great. And then who came in third? Gotta ask.
That was me, Andre, your trusty assistant. I picked up the cards.
Well, I'm glad I didn't send it to you ahead of time, Andre.
That's right. I didn't have any inside tips here.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, just wanted to, oh, I think someone had a comment.
Oh, yes, Dr. Bryant, this is Lane. I wanted to ask, what about those, when we said schedule back-to-back Zoom sessions? Most often, the attendees don't have that choice or position. And a lot of times too, the people who are scheduling these meetings, they don't respect time. Because if you get off at a certain time, but then you have meetings that start maybe 3:30 in the afternoon and they go off until 5 or 6 o'clock, and you've gotten off hours ago after going into back-to-back meetings. I know this is just the eye in the storm, and we're doing, what needs to be done. But when is there a position where it has to be addressed?
That's a great question. Thank you, Lane. Thank you. So for me, it's a little different for me because, as I said, I'm doing teletherapy. Okay, and so I may see anywhere from on an easy day, I'll see 3 students. On a pretty intense day, I'll see 7 students. And you're right, I don't have the option of saying, I'm just a little tired right now. I can't do that, right? So it's a 2-part answer to your question. The first part is I have to monitor my own self-care. So that means I schedule my sessions on the 45 minutes. And in that 15, I'm doing some self-care. And my self-care might look different from yours, all right, within this remote environment. Within this remote environment, my self-care might mean going out on the porch and walking around our basketball court while I'm singing one of my favorite songs, all right? Levity, just, okay? It might mean picking up a ball and shooting a hoop or 2. I'm not talking about, something long. I'm just talking about something that's 2 to 3 minutes. It does a lot for the body and it resets the mind.
Mhm.
So that's the self-care that I try to do on those 15-minute hour or 15-minute intervals because I do have the back-to-back. I'll also make sure that I meal plan. So because if I'm going back-to-back, I'm not going to have time to eat. So I have to meal plan that I can get that 15-minute meal in and still be able to go for the next one. Now, in a work environment where we're on campus, then we need to start looking at no more than 4 Zoom meetings a day, because we're talking about productivity and we're talking about being able to longevity as well. Stamina, exactly. So I would say no more than 4. And then if you get that 5th, what can you do to opt so that you can phone in, make it a conference call, maybe not be on camera, some sort of self-care to where it's not as intense for you. Now, that means you may have to advocate. Again, that means you might have to caucus with your colleagues and you know, approach the person who is in charge doing this. Another way to look at it is to minimize what you choose to opt in on online. So maybe you don't opt in to join the cousins on that Saturday get together because you're kind of swamped. So it's about choices, it's about self-care, and it's about advocacy. I hope that helps.
Thank you for your suggestion. Not always do we have that latitude. And I'm sure I see many names in this group that I can point to at any given time, and as they are pretty much the 20% doing 80% of the work.
Okay.
So that latitude is not always there, but I do appreciate any suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. And to your point, if we're all on this same call, then it might make it easier, right, to caucus. It might make it easier to do that approach. It might make it easier to talk about some change in scheduling. Okay, I'm an academic advisor, meet with students all day, students schedule via Navigate, and it trails off. So,
It says, can you see it?
yes, I can. I also want to be mindful here because, again, getting back to starting on time and ending on time, we're coming up into the 4 o'clock. I'm happy to stay and answer questions beyond that time, but certainly if you'd like to go, you've reached your capacity at 4 p.m. Thank you. I appreciate your time being here. All right. Let's get back to this question here.
That was from me, Beth.
Beth, yeah, go ahead, Beth. Hi.
Yeah, I can read the rest.
Got
of
a
it.
serious paragraph here.
I type fast.
Okay.
I'm an academic advisor. I meet with students all day because, well, that's my job, right? So I have to be available. The students have the ability to schedule through a platform called Navigate, which you could possibly be familiar with. And so I regularly see, like literally through Zoom, 9 to 10 students a day during non-peak, somewhere from 18 to 22 during peak times.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'm like wiped out by the end of the day. Then I go to my other full-time job, which is being a wife and a mother to a teenager, a wife to a 50-something-year-old guy.
I got you.
So I was saying, you know, I've gone in and I've seen some, you know, like these 5 to 10 minute easy meditation type things. But like, do you have like some like quick maybe for the participants on this that you could just send out to us? Because here's what happens to me. My mind is still going when my workday ends. And for me to try to like clear my mind or whatever is really hard, because then I'm going from my basement office, because it's quiet there, up to the kitchen or whatever's next, so I'm like, what can I do in like 5 to 10 minutes that can just kind of get me? So then I come upstairs and I'm a friendlier, kinder person.
Yes.
Because I'm like burned out from the constant,
Yes.
being on the computer all the time.
Yeah. Yes. I totally get that. So sounds like you need a blast of joy. All right.
Something,
So
yeah.
yeah. And unfortunately, it's not something we can drink, right? So
Yeah, although
but
occasionally.
yeah, well, that's later, Beth. But anyway, what you might a couple of things you can do. One is, I think I alluded to it during the presentation, get some air in your lungs. Okay, step outside.
Yeah, I do that during my lunch break. I take the dog
Perfect.
out back and run him.
And then
around
do
for a
it
minute.
again at the end of the day. Okay, part of what we're lacking is that transition that we used to have after work.
Right.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
When we could decompress in the car.
And you were seeing like the sky and everything. And
Exactly.
now it's like just constant computer screen. And...
Get out, yeah. Beth. Get out. So that's the number one thing I can say. And something else that even if it stimulates, and my husband thinks I'm crazy, but what I will do is I will stimulate my morning commute by just driving to the 7-Eleven up the street.
Yeah.
It forces me to get dressed. It forces me, to get into that mode. And when I'm done with my workday, I also have an ending routine because I want to break that sense of I'm just home and now I'm done. No, it doesn't work that way. The brain has to have that transition. And so it's important to build that in, Beth. So what you might want to do is maybe get a candle that's symbolic that you light as a way of, this is the end of my workday. Maybe as you, maybe you go out to your car and you listen to one of your favorite songs, just one, and then you come on back in.
I like that.
What music can do.
Idea. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you just set some sort of ritual. I know for me, it's when I'm done, I get up and I go for a walk outside. And I'm wondering how that's going to work when the time changes, but I'm not there yet.
Well, that's the thing. With the time change this weekend, it'll be dark
exactly.
when we finish up, right? Yeah.
Exactly. I haven't planned that far ahead, Beth. I'm
My
just
dog
getting
is
through
20
this
pounds.
presentation right now.
He's not intimidating. I can't take him out and intimidate them.
I'm wondering if there are other people on this call who also have ways of decompressing. If you can put those in the chat, that would be great. Ways that you might end your workday in order to transition into the rest of your evening.
Hi, this is Raymond. So I have sort of two roles with the college. Hey, Beth, and everybody else I know, and everybody else I don't know. So I've sort of done a couple of things. When I first found out that we were remote, I like music, so I moved my keyboard into my office, and I do have a separate space. I'm fortunate to have a separate space where I can close it off. Work stays in there. It does not come to my living room. It does not come to my bedroom. It does not come to my dining room. So that idea of compartmentalizing a little bit of work helps. I keep my work cell phone in there. It has its own charger in there. On weekends, it goes on mute.
Oh.
And then sort of throughout the day, I can listen to music. I can play a little bit of music if I want to, like just those moments in between. But I wanted to mention something. I'm not sure, Beth, if Navigate allows you to do it, but I use Calendly as a tool for students to schedule appointments with me. And when you set that up, Calendly allows you to set buffers before and after your meetings. And when I first started, I was like, I don't need a buffer. I could just go back to back. But since everything is on Zoom and everything's online, the buffers, you know, I set up like a 5-minute buffer before meetings, and like a 10-minute buffer after meeting. One, so I can capture notes, and two, so I can kind of decompress just in case that first scenario was something that took a lot of energy out of me, and I do need to go grab a sip of water. But definitely using those buffers when it comes to scheduling appointments. And then I don't know if Lane is still on here, but one of the things that I've been guilty. My colleague Jennifer is on here. We're on a committee for a presentation we have to give this weekend. I think one day I actually held a meeting over, admittedly, you know, like an hour and a half over the time. And I apologize, but one of the things that could mitigate that is, like, if you know a meeting is scheduled to end at 4 o'clock, for example, maybe ask if the session is being recorded, so that at 4 o'clock when you have to leave, you can respectfully leave and then just ask for the recording to be shared with
Great
you,
idea.
so that you can capture, you know, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you have to leave at 3:30. So respectfully say, I have to leave at 3:30 today because of other commitments. And the other commitment could just be self-care. Is there any way that this session can be recorded and shared with me? And I think, you know, most times when sessions are recorded, then we also have to set aside time to make sure that we go back and listen to those recordings and capture those. So again, thank you for this session. This has been a great end to my day.
Well, thank you. Great
Oh,
suggestions.
and I will add that I'm also outside on my balcony because my power's out. And you're right. I'm literally looking at the trees that are turning colors. And it is so helpful, you know, to just be out in nature and see that as well.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you so much. When I need a co-presenter next time, I'll call you. That was great. All righty. Anyone else now? Just want to respectfully say that there are some great ideas here in the chat. So if you haven't gone to the chat, look in the chat in terms of what your colleagues are suggesting.
Yeah. Hey, Danielle, this is
Hi,
DeVell.
DeVell.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Speaking in regards to the transition, for me, I have to have more than one in my own personal arsenal because I can abuse one that just works all of the time, and I don't want to be fatigued with that particular activity to help me transition. So sometimes it's something as simple as 10 minutes of silence. Don't answer my phone, turn my computer off, and just traditionally just transition. Other times I'll do the same thing, but I'll go outside and just take in the air.
Okay.
I'm a music buff, so I'll allot myself maybe 10 minutes just to listen to whatever song, whatever mood I'm in, or where my energy, where I want to take it to the next phase. If I have like a bunch of tasks to do, so I want to amp myself up, I'll play a certain type of music to kind of get that energy flowing. And then I always make it my business to get up and get my joints moving. So even if it's just going to my car, even if it's just going to the end of the block, or if it's just taking a walk, I try to make sure that I implement something that doesn't remind me of what I just got finished doing, you know?
Right. Yes.
And then it also, you know, it also entails sometimes I'll go online and, you know, I'll listen to some comedy for a couple of minutes, or I'll watch a video or something just mindless that really helps me transition into the next thing. So I'm able to tell the difference between the different portions of my day.
Yes.
But I got to mix it up.
Excellent. Wonderful. All right. Very good. Very good.
Hey Beth, this is Cameron. I absolutely do understand and appreciate you know, the challenge, and I think many of us are very familiar with it. Last week was a very hard week. I mean, it was literally like 12, 14-hour days. But that's not every week. That's literally not every week. And so again, sometimes it's a point of creating some wins. So one of the things that I've been doing lately is I've been intentionally scheduling something that is personal to me on the back end of my day that pushes me into the transition. It pushes me into that transition.
Okay.
So for instance, if I have committed to myself that I'm going to read something that I want to read, if it's an exercise or something that I want to do. If it is something that I just promised that I was going to do, like declutter something, again, sometimes that allows me to shift and move into the kind of home space, because I have 3 college students who are now home learning remotely, who are now my colleagues, along with a spouse who is also working remotely. And so literally, it doesn't matter what floor you're on, there's somebody there and they're working, and I absolutely get it. And then the Skype, the Teams, the Zooms, all of that stuff is still pinging you. And so, so again, just putting some success structures in place has kind of helped. Sometimes for me, just in the technology side of things, it's like, hey, I'm kind of book solid. Is there a way that we can move my content to the front part or the back part of the meeting, so maybe I don't have to endure the entire meeting? That's not your case, I get that. But then the other side of it also is that, hey, listen guys, I have a hard stop in 45 minutes into this meeting. So I just can give myself that 10 minutes I need to write the notes, maybe a bio break or whatever the case may be, before jumping right into the next one. And again, I don't know that that necessarily works for you, but I think sometimes it's just a point of, again, putting some success structures in place that kind of help force me into the habit of maintaining and respecting my own boundaries that I need for the self-care.
Perfect. 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 That describes the advocating, that describes all wonderful. Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you. So Beth, you really started something. I said you weren't alone. Anybody else?
I'm glad I could, you know, get some conversation started around that. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's the, you know, this is, there's, this brings up the other things that we're dealing with, because, you know, Zoom is a way for us to remain connected, but it's also a way for us to continue our workday well beyond what it, you know, what we should. So yeah, you know, like Cameron was saying, setting up those boundaries, and, you know, having a hard, like, this at the end time, or I need, you know, 5 minutes to do something. And you have to, like, gauge your audience as well, like whether it's your supervisor or like me dealing with students or whatever the case may be. You just have to, you know, in a situation where that's not going to go over well, you just endure it. But in another situation, you might be like, okay, well, like, let me take the next 5 minutes to do this, and then, you know, we'll follow up in a week or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, just have to read your audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a wonderful segue into reading my audience, in terms of, it is now 4:14, 4:15. So I am so glad we're the last one. Otherwise, you know, I'd get the hook. So let's go ahead and end our time, unless there's one more burning comment from the audience.
Thank you. That was great. My department's having a meeting in a couple minutes, so I've got to go. So
okay, excellent. Well,
see ya, Candace. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's our segue, folks. So bye-bye. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, Andre, there's nothing else I have to do?
Nope, that is all. People are exiting. We can all go take a walk like you suggested.
Exactly.